All right. Piss and vinegar day 7. I think. Yeah, day 7. Shoulders and biceps. I like this day. It's probably one of my favorite days because I like shoulders and biceps. I've maintained more strength on these muscles than I have all my other muscles throughout my cut. So it's still somewhat enjoyable to do. But until I start bulking, everything's still going down a little bit. But anyway, yeah, warming up on the seated press, shoulder press. I prefer these over standing overhead press. I only just started doing barbell presses again very recently because I was sick of standing press, as I feel like the reps were always inconsistent because you never know how much leg drive might be coming through, even if you're keeping it super strict. It's very technical. Whereas this is very easy to do. There's no real technique or very minimal technique involved, so the reps stay very consistent. And I find I feel these in my front delts a bit more because I can lean back a little bit more than I would on a vertical overhead press. So I like these. These are good, and I'm relatively strong at these relative to all the other lifts I do. All the other compound lifts I do are basically in the novice numbers now, because I've either neglected them until very recently or I've just lost heaps of strength on the weight cut. So I like this shit. It's fun. I'm doing a 60 kilo drop set here. So as you see, I have two 10 kilo plates instead of one 60 kilo plates. And this way I'm set up to do a drop set more easily. If you do drop sets with barbells and anything that requires plates, you're going to need to use more numerous lighter plates in order to get up quickly and strip them off, rather than fucking around by putting plates on and off. And by that point, you're better off just doing a rest pause anyway, of which I do here too. So I rest about 20 seconds, and again, for these big compound lifts, when you do a rest pause, unless you're resting for like 60 seconds, you're not going to get more than like 1 or 2 reps. So I rest for about 15-20 seconds, and then I go for another rep or two. I start half repping because I wasn't going to get a full rep there, and then I go for a quarter, and I can't even hit a quarter, and now I'm fully done. And now I do my drop set. And as per all my shoulder workouts, I only do one front delt movement, which is a press, because I have a very difficult time already hitting my pecs on chest day. A lot of my front delts get worked on chest day anyway, so I don't see the point of isolating with front raises or any more pressing movements. I just simply do the overhead press, and as of right now it seems to be working, although in the future I might add some more anterior work if I feel like it's necessary. So yeah, drop the plate in half, and with these big compound movements you only need one drop set because they're so heavy and demanding. You don't need like 3 or 4 drop sets like you would on small little muscles like a side delt variation, for example. So yeah, bam, done. That's my anterior press. Now I'm doing a side lateral raise. I'm trying a new variation today with cable raises. Normally I do these unilaterally, that way I can get force reps and work on the muscles individually. But I'm combining them today, and this is the first time I ever did this. I strapped up my wrists, that way I didn't have to grip. So anything like shoulders or back, or really anything, the closer you can get the resistant point to the muscle, the better you're going to feel it. So the fingers are just an extra kind of dominating or dampening factor that will take some of the my muscle connection out of the muscle. The closer you can get the resistance to the elbow, or ideally to the delt, moment arm, the better resistance curve you're going to have. You're going to feel it more. So I put these around the wrist just to see if I could feel it a bit better, which I did, but it came with a few problems. When I finished the set, now I had to like take them off, and I had to twist around and then lift it up to twist it to do a drop set, and it was a bit of a fuck around. So, and it kind of took a lot of time out of the drop set. I had to rest. I was resting longer in between the drop set because I was fucking around taking the straps off and shit. Whereas if it was just handles, I could have immediately turned around, taken the weight off, and then done it. But it was okay. So I did a drop set, and I feel like there wasn't enough drop set weight either. When I do side laterals, I like to drop weight, 3 or 4 times to really burn out the side delts. I feel like those smaller muscles need more stimulus than just, one set to failure. So next session I do these, I'll probably do them a little bit heavier, and that way I can do 3 drops. But I like these The other downside is you don't get as much resistance at the bottom. With cables, you oftentimes reverse the resistance curve. So with dumbbells, you feel them most. Well, actually, realistically, these are actually identical to dumbbells then, unlike most cable variations. I was feeling most of the resistance at the top, and that's the reason I was doing these, is because I wanted to see if it would give a more consistent tension, but it didn't. But anyway, they felt good anyway, so I'll continue doing them in my program. And then I experimented with another thing because I didn't feel like I hit my side delts hard enough with those drop sets. So I tried some isometrics. I've been trying to implement these a little bit in because I know Mike Mensa was a huge fan of these. So far, I'm not really impressed with isometrics. This won't be a mainstay. I tried this, didn't really like it that much. I'll try it again maybe in a few sessions from now with a less resistant band, and that way my arm will be a bit more parallel to the floor. That might make a difference, but so far I didn't like that much. Anyway, moving on to the strict curl. This movement's not really that ideal for hypertrophy. I just do this for fun. I kind of see this as the one of the missing power lifts. We do bench, deadlift, squats, but we don't do overhead press and biceps. So I think I like these because they are kind of a competition lift in their own right. There are competitions for the bicep curl nowadays. So I do these, there's not as much time and attention because like the top range, you're losing all tension. As you can see in the previous reps, once your arm is like vertical, there's no tension on the biceps anymore. But I just do these because one, they're good for strength, and two, they're fun and they're a good test of strength. And then to get a bit more kind of stimulus and time and attention, I come off the wall and start doing some cheat reps. And then I do a drop set and go back to it. With these, I don't put my head on the wall. It's competition standard that you have your glutes, upper back, and head on the wall. However, when I find when I put my head on the wall, I start to feel my abs heaps because it's like, the weight is pulling me forward and I'm contracting my abs and I'm not focusing the biceps as much. So I keep my head off. If I was in a genuine competition, obviously I put my head on. But yeah, more of a competition lift, that one. I just enjoy it. You still feel it in your biceps, and it's great for bicep tendon strength, kind of solidifying those tendons so they don't tear. And then I move on to decline curls. So this is basically training the exact same muscle, the actual bicep brachii. However, this one's far more effective for hypertrophy. You get the stretch at the bottom, get a great contraction at the top, and overall just much better bicep movement. So I combine this one as more of the hypertrophy work combined with the strength. The strict curl is what I would call a bench press, and this is what I would call a dumbbell fly as an equivalent. And yeah, I do kind of 3 to 4, maybe even 5 second negatives here. As you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 basically. And that way I get this mad burn and stretch at the bottom. It's really big that you stretch at the bottom with these ones. I honestly think this is the best bicep movement that you can basically do for pure hypertrophy reasoning. And at the end, I just do some kind of half reps. I fail, and then I just do some kind of burnout half reps. This is just brutal. And you don't need drop sets with this kind of movement, but it's just so perfected for hypertrophy. And then I finish off the biceps with some concentration hammer curls. I haven't actually really seen anyone ever do these before, funnily enough. I mean, I'm sure people do them, but I've never actually seen someone do them, which is funny because this shit works so fucking well. I don't know what it is. I do 5 second concentric and eccentric on these, and man, my brachialis and brachyradialis on these ones, it get totally toasted, especially the brachialis. I do the reverse curls on the other day for more my brachyradialis, which is the forearm insertion, and then this variation is more to totally trash my brachialis, which is the bicep or humerus inserted muscle of the side of the bicep. But if you want to try these out, and I had a mate recently do these, and he was like he was fucked. Like, he was literally screaming, and the next day he's like, "What the fuck did you do to my brachialis?" So try these out. You will not be fucking disappointed. This shit hurts hell bad. And then you can do forced reps at the end, forced negatives at the end. And yeah, man, these are great for the brachyradialis and brachialis. And you could do these with just a supinated curl too, and get the bicep brachii, which I also do on my other day. You'll notice a lot of the stuff that I do on the other day complements the stuff that I do the next week. So I have like kind of a week A and B, and on my chest I have a B and C option also. And I like to experiment with new movements, try out new movements every now and then just to find out first, is this movement superior to what I'm already doing for the same body part? I mean, in my back training, I found out very recently that cable rows for me were inferior to the bent over V-bar row. It just so happens that that movement was better. It does the exact same function, trains the same muscles, but just happens to do a better job for me specifically. So I experiment a little bit every now and then to find out what's the best optional movement, or best option rather. And then secondly, I like to have a bit of exercise selection in order to override the rule of accommodation or biological accommodation of training, where if you do the same thing every single week, you start to stall out pretty quickly. Whereas if you cycle out the movements weekly, you are able to progress on these movements a bit more consistently and stall less hastily, essentially. So 2 reasons I like to try new exercises. Ideally, eventually, I'd like to have an A, B, C, and D workout month. So, one workout at the start of the month, second workout's different, third workout's different, fourth workout's different, and then I repeat it. And that way, I'll have a bunch of variations, so everything stays fresh and I keep progressing. So now I'm doing my rotator cuff work. Super important. Don't buy into the bullshit physio sort of specifications of 4 sets of 25 reps, heaps of reps in reserve. No, it's a small muscle, sure, but you can train every muscle with high intensity, and you should be training every muscle with high intensity because it will save time and you won't be dicking around not progressing with bullshit volume work. So fuck all that, physiotherapy, light and controlled shit. It's a muscle like any other. Get it strong, get it big, and if you get the rotator cuffs big, they will actually have some properties aesthetically too. It'll push out your rear delts, it'll push out your rhomboids a little bit, and then first and foremost, it will bulletproof your shoulders to any injuries. And shoulders are a very flawed joint. There's so much mobility, there's so much that can go wrong. You're going to want to really get those rotator cuff muscles as strong as humanly possible. And my rule of thumb is 10% of your body weight. So in my case, I'm 78 kilos. I'm currently doing 6.5 kilos, or 7.5 kilos rather, which is almost 10% of my body weight. And if you're at that point, you have pretty strong rotator cuffs. Double that, and then you're supreme. And now I'm doing a little bit of posing. Still don't know how to fucking pose, but whatever. This is just a cross-reference in the future when I've made some bulking gains and can see how much I've built up after my cut in, say, 6 months' time. Anyway, see you nerds tomorrow for more piss and vinegar training.